Welcome to Small Biz, Big Wins, where every episode is a new journey into the heart of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Summer Poquette, here to navigate the thrilling world of small business with you. Each week, we dive into the inspiring stories and joyful triumphs of real business owners. Get ready to be empowered with actionable advice and, most importantly, celebrate the spirit of small business. Let's dive into how every small victory shapes your big success. This is Small Biz, Big Wins. Let's make it happen. They say if you want something done, ask a busy person. It's probably why I end up overwhelmed and up to my eyeballs in to-do lists. Learning to say no and to delegate is not my strong suit. I always feel like I can do everything. Sometimes I think nobody else can do it, or they can't do it as well as I can. This, my friends, is not healthy. It's self-imposed stress. And over the years, I've gotten better at limiting what I can and cannot do. I've gotten better at asking for help and delegating, but it's still something I'm personally working on. According to the Harvard Business Review, delegation is an actual skill. And we all know that skills need to be practiced if you want to improve. So my friends, I am practicing and it ain't easy. Can you relate? Are you a small business owner who does and feels like you can't take a day off work, or you're working late into the evenings and on the weekends? If you're saying yes, this is definitely the show for you. Kalin Sheick is the founder and creative director for Sweetwater Floral. She left her career in television to start a floral business, designing flowers for events across northern Michigan. Her business began on a tiny farm and has expanded to a floral shop location in Walloon Lake, Michigan. Without delegation, she probably wouldn't be where she is today, and I'm excited to have her share her tips for helping all of us fellow business owners learn a thing or two from her on the topic of delegation. So welcome, Kalin.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is great, Summer.
Yeah, it's a great topic. So before I dive into the many questions I have for you, share a little bit about yourself. How did you go from being on television to owning a farm, being an award-winning floral designer, and to a mom of 3 running a team and a thriving business?
Yeah, so my name's Kalin Sheick. Like Summer said, we own a company called Sweetwater. It's a flower-focused lifestyle brand based in northern Michigan. We flower for events across the state. And our goal is to bring people more joy through flowers. So whether that's attending a workshop, taking a class with us, visiting our retail space, hiring us for your event flowers, taking some of our online offerings, we really try and be available to people across the board to allow them these opportunities to like feel joy through botanical flowers and like the natural world. I was a television reporter, and then in 2015, I just felt like a pull, something wanting me to get more creative. If I'm being transparent, I wasn't very happy in my job. I felt like it was. I loved the work and I had worked so hard to get that job. It just felt like I couldn't see myself for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I really started to reflect on what the future looked like for me. And I thought, I love flowers. I'll just try and start a flower business. I had no business owning a business is what I like to say. And it started super small. I worked my full-time job. I stayed on TV and flowered for weddings for 3 years. And then it just has really like grown and evolved since then.
That's crazy. I think you're definitely one of, like most of us, an accidental business owner.
Yes.
Just kind of happen to, kind of fall into it, and you're really great at it. But you definitely, I know this kind of topic came up for me when we had dinner at Travato in up in Brutus, Michigan. And we were talking about delegation, and I thought, oh my gosh, you have so many great tips. So can you share your journey from how you were doing everything for yourself, like deciding, you're running this little tiny farm and being a wedding, floral designer. How did you start to decide to delegate tasks in your small business? What was the turning point where you're like, I can't do all of this myself?
I realized that my time was better spent doing certain action items on my list that brought the business more money. And also just looking at my list and knowing, okay, there are certain things that only I can do. And then there are certain things on this list that a lot of people could do for some reason, I'm just not having other people help me. And for years, we did not have a budget for staff or for none of that at all. That was not a possibility. But I started really, really slowly. I hired someone one summer. I'm talking like hiring high school, college students, like minimum wage and really just like, frankly, cash under the table or like help me out for a couple hours
Yeah.
weeding beds and like little things like that. But I realized that, okay, what I made a list of what can Kalin only do, and then what can other people come in and I can train other people to do. And my biggest tip with delegation, I'm sure you'll hear me say this multiple times today, is I feel like the number one thing that kills someone's small business, they get in their own way. They think they are the only person who can do it. They refuse to release control. They're trying to prove a point by having a white knuckle grip on every single asset of their business, and you run yourself into the ground. And then it can't work. You cannot be everything to every single person.
That like, if you're listening, I hope you rewind and play it back 100 times. Like, just keep going back and listening to that, because it is so true. And I can relate. Like, there are a lot of things that I really think, oh, only I can do. But sometimes when I give them to someone else on my team, they fly and they do it better than I do it. So, not having that white knuckle grip actually is a huge relief, because it frees up my time, but other people can actually do things better than me, even if I think I'm the only one who can do it.
I mean, hiring people who are different than you and who have different skill sets than you is also a game changer. And I'm sure we'll get into how we expanded the team and stuff, but like,
Sure.
I feel like you cannot, like, I would not try and fill my own cavity, right? I go to a dentist and hire a professional who went and learned how to do that. So why am I trying to be an accountant? Like, why am I doing my own
100%.
books? Why am I trying to, like, just all these different things that slowly, as the years passed, I was like, okay, I need some help here. And that relinquishing the control is the Sweetwater success common thread, one of the common threads.
Yeah. So how did you, like you said, you made a list of things that only Kalin can do and things that you could teach other people how to do. And how did you identify like what those tasks were and how you were going to delegate them to different people? Like, how do you assess their strengths or their weaknesses? Like, how do you decide, okay, this person's going to do this? Or
so are you talking about the team as it looks now or the team as it looked in the early days? Because now there's 6 of us full time and it's super different than it was in the early days.
I guess both. Like, even in the early days, was a lot of it just survival? Like, you just,
for sure.
It was just survival. And then now you've got more organized, you're larger, your team is more full-time. So you had these part-time people, high schoolers, pre-Walloon Lake Floral Shop. So I guess maybe talk through and explain to the listeners a little bit about how your team looks now and how it's structured. That might help.
So there's 6 of us. And myself as a creative director and the owner. We have our manager, Christy. She manages the company. She helps us in every facet, but really, really hones in on managing our retail physical location. And then she manages staffing. So who's going to be on the schedule when, how many extra hands do we need? Matt is our business director. He manages all numbers, accounts, money coming in, money going out. He does all of our production side of stuff too, as sort of a hybrid position. Full transparency, Matt is also my husband. And he came on board when it'll be 2 years ago this June, when we decided to bring on people full time and give them salaried roles with benefits and needing more financial projections for the business for the year. Because for years, I literally operated it as, okay, this is my business. And if there's money in the account and I'm paying all my bills, like, I'm fine. But I found that there was no growth there. There was no strategic growth there. And what Matt has done is come in and really, ripped open the books, as they say, and looked at everything and been like, we're overspending here. We can spend more here. Like the kind of stuff that when you're a solo entrepreneur for 8 years or 6 to 7, 8 years, you don't have time. I didn't have time to sit down and look at strategy. It was just like, cool, I get an invoice, I can pay it. I can take my salary, take draws. I was never on a paycheck. I was just taking owner draws. And so hiring a business manager full time has really kept everything so organized from a system standpoint with the money. That's Matt's job. And then Matt also helps a lot with production. So we are a team that everyone hops in when everyone is needed. So even though I'm the owner and my job is more of like a marketing director, creative director now, I still design flowers when they need me. I still install weddings most Saturdays in the summer. Matt tears down weddings at 1 a.m. in the summer. Like we still are a very, very small business, very small business.
Yeah,
And we're
so
family.
lean,
Yeah, we're family owned and operated. And then we have Ellis. Ellis is our lead designer. And Ellis really she shines brightest and best at her design table. And she is like running the show there. So she is who we lean on for executing a wedding from start to finish. We all hop in, but Ellis is really good about telling us like, okay, I think we need to focus on this one first. She checks in with Christy.
Got it.
We have Tracy. We hired Tracy as a director of weddings. This was a huge fundamental change. I had managed all the weddings myself for 7 years. I had been the point of contact for every couple, their only person they talked to at the company. And then we sort of hit a breaking point where I cannot be running this business from an overviewing standpoint, from a creative director standpoint, being a marketing director, and be the person that every single bride and or groom reaches out to for
that's a lot.
150 to 200 touch points through the process of planning their wedding. And we're talking about 100 weddings a year. So we hired Tracy.
Crazy. So it kind of sounds like you made this list of, where you wanted to go and how you were organized, like how you wanted to organize your business for growth. And then, started to have those tasks, hire and delegate that way. Like kind of sounds like that's kind of how you grew your team.
I chipped away at it. So the first identified problem I found was that I was over ordering flowers. I was wasting money. When you over order wholesale product, you waste money. I couldn't manage. I couldn't find the secret sauce in ordering. So the first full-time position we had, aside from myself, was I hired a buyer. So Lily has been with us the longest, and she manages all our buying and ordering. Because then I was like, if I eliminate this part of my job, it frees up 20 hours a week for me to design more. And then I don't need another designer this summer. I can still do it all myself if I have Lily. So I really did just chip away at my pain points and hired people who are so smart and wonderful.
And it sounds also like you realize when you started to organize things and you went from the solopreneur to actually being the entrepreneur to like a team and looking at the numbers, then you could see, where the weaknesses were as well, where you were maybe letting the balls drop because you just didn't have maybe it's not that you didn't have the skill set. It's that you're so busy.
You don't have the time. And Matt always says the numbers don't lie. It's not a personal thing. It's not a reflection of how good you are as a person. It's not a reflection of if you can or cannot do it all. Like the numbers are the numbers. And so we are very good, I think, at taking the emotion out of it sometimes. Matt, better so than myself some days. And just stepping back and looking at it like, okay, this is not making us money. So this needs to be eliminated. This is making us a lot of money. We need to pour into this more.
That makes a lot of sense. So looking at your numbers, saying, okay, this is where we're wasting. This is where we need to focus more on. Kalin, you don't have time to do all of this. We need to hire this out, or we need to give this, task to a team member. Have you found over the years of how long have you been in business?
9 years.
9 years. So in 9 years, have you felt any of this, delegating, leading to kind of a loss of control or quality at all? Like, I mean, I feel like maybe that's a little gender bias that some people like think that that's how women feel. They have to have this control over everything. Did you ever feel like that?
So I always say one of my secrets to my success is done is better than perfect. And I am not, to go back to the beginning, and I'm coming off as like super cutthroat and like, but this is People ask me all the time how we made Sweetwater what it is. And I said, the reason it is what it is because I am not a control freak about every single asset of the business. Like, I control the controllables, and I am so comfortable in releasing and putting my trust in other people. And then we've made missteps. Like, we have hired people who are not good fits for this company, or we've had people come for one season and leave. And then I've made huge mistakes, humongous mistakes, putting things on people's plate when they were not ready, asking people to be leaders when they were not ready to be leaders. Like, but I'm not laying in bed at night thinking about these things. I have a crazy ability to compartmentalize. Maybe it's not healthy. I should probably work on that in therapy. But I just like see something and I'm like, okay, this didn't work. Let's move on. I don't really, failures and mistakes, I don't take personally. I take them as learning lessons. And so releasing the control, it's like getting in shape. You got to do it repetitively. Like, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes.
It's a skill. It's definitely a skill. So if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a control freak, I can't do this, work on it. Like, practice, letting things go and assigning tasks. How do you maintain like standards and ensure like tasks are completed to your satisfaction, to the Sweetwater brand, image, while empowering people on your team to take ownership?
So one of the smartest things we ever did was we wrote a handbook. And for years, I had never had one. And Matt took that on last winter as his project. He worked with a professional, with an HR professional. Again, like, we are not HR professionals, so let's hire someone who's an HR professional to help us. He wrote an awesome handbook. We worked on it together. So we have like again, taking the emotion out of things, we have a code of conduct and a code of brand ethics, and like, it's just in writing. And so when you come join the team, you're agreeing to review this handbook and sign this piece of paper. So then we've never had an issue with, oh, I didn't know that's how we did that here. I didn't know this is what we believed in. And it's like, it's right here in the handbook. You read it and you signed it. And then when I bring people on to help me with stuff, like this past summer, I delegated a lot on social media and things like that. It's just knowing that there will be mistakes, knowing that it's not going to be perfect from day one, and knowing that no one is paying as close attention as you. So when a mailer goes out, an email goes out, and it didn't look exactly how I wanted it to look, and I looked at it and approved it, but I was rushed, and now I'm looking at it again, and I wouldn't have set it up that way. I'm not, again, losing sleep over it. I'm like, okay, this is on me as the leader of this company. I should have communicated better and been clearer about my expectations, but also being open to feedback. And I still have to work on a few things in the business that when I get feedback on them, I'm like, but you don't know this as well as I do. Like, you aren't as deep in it as I am. It can be hard, but I also feel it's really good practice for us as human beings to take feedback and learn how to hear critical comments about our work. And if you're uncoachable, you're not really going to get very far.
You're not going to get far. And so having the processes and procedures in place really help you to delegate and ensure that everyone's going to do things the way they should be doing it because we have it written down, you've agreed to it. How do you allow your team to give the feedback? Like, do you do that during team meetings or do you do one-on-one meetings, or is it just more casual, like, hey, Matt, tell me where I suck? How do you handle that as a team?
All of the above. So we have a managers meeting every Tuesday, and from April 1st through the end of the year, they're every single Tuesday in person. During the slower months of the year, like right now, they're pretty much every other week. Some people dial in virtually, some people miss it. Like, as long as you send an email. Managers meeting is like everyone reports on what they're working on and what's working and not working, and we ask feedback from the group. We do quarterly reviews, end of season reviews with the whole team. That's Matt and I, and then Christy, our manager, sits in on the ones that she is a part of. And then we have like a really open dialogue kind of work environment. Like, I am always asking the team, I like to think, for feedback. We feel very compelled in our workspace to give feedback on things. Like yesterday, as we record this, was Valentine's Day. So we have a whole debrief we need to do, like what worked, what didn't work. But also we do that with data. So it's really easy to today, February 15th, right after Valentine's, try and sit down and be like, what should we do different next year? What worked, what didn't work?
Yeah.
Versus this morning, we just said, okay, let's just do it on Tuesday. Tuesday, we'll have all the numbers. The numbers don't lie. So we'll look at the numbers and then we'll say, okay, now let's go like sort of around the horn and talk about what we think worked and didn't work. It's a very collaborative work environment. And that just comes down to, I don't know, I like to think a little bit of luck. We've hired incredible people, but also we like to really keep an open kind of work environment.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds very familiar to like for our work environment, it's very similar. And, we have regular cadence of meetings and all of that, but we're all very open with each other, kind of like a family. Like you can say, this isn't going well. I'm not liking this. I'm struggling here. Ask for help. You can get that feedback. But then at the same time, you have that structure
for sure
of the meetings and the one-on-one and the valuations and all of that. So friends, we're going to go to a quick ad break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about how delegating leads to personal growth, how to delegate and ensure quality work, and tips for your small business and how you can let go and trust your team. So let's take an ad break. A quick shout out to our sponsor, Keep It Real Social, an award-winning marketing agency. They're not just marketers, but storytellers, making your business shine. Thanks to Keep It Real Social for empowering us and our listeners in the digital world. For your digital marketing solutions, check out keepitrealsocial.com. Back to Small Biz Big Wins for more insights and inspiration. All right. Well, welcome back to Small Biz Big Wins. We're here today with Kalin Sheick, and we're chatting about delegation because Lord knows we all need to share more of our workload to let go of some control and trust those that we hire. So, Kalin, let's chat about how delegating has allowed you to focus more on the growth of your business. And you kind of covered some of this previously, but can you share how it's contributed to your personal growth and scaling your business? Because you're letting people do things, maybe tasks that you have always done.
Yeah, the personal growth has been just feeling like, over the course of building this business, I started the business when I was freshly married. I had no kids. And now 9 years in, I've been married almost 10 years and we have 3 kids. And we had all 3 kids back to back to back during COVID. And it was wild.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
And I feel like nothing will help you learn to manage your time better than parenthood. And you really quickly see how few hours are in the day. And so in a lot of ways, I see sometimes people will give me feedback like, I don't know how you do it with 3 kids. I hear that all the time. Oh my God, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I say the reason I'm doing it is because of these kids, because it grew. Because if I had not been forced to flex and change and delegate and hire on more help, the business would have just stalled out when I brought home my first child. I quickly realized, okay, this is working, but this isn't the old method of it working is not going to work anymore. And sometimes things happen in your life and you need to just reevaluate. You are not operating the same day-to-day schedule you had when you're 15 years old now for a reason.
Totally.
You prioritize things differently. And so the business was my income. We are a 2-income household. Matt was still working full-time outside of Sweetwater. He had an incredibly demanding job. And I was like, okay, I got these kids now and I'm going to need more help to keep Sweetwater going and also to grow it and to be able to be the kind of parent I want to be and to be the mom I want to be. And so the personal growth has really come in realizing that you can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
And, it's like all the age-old lines about prioritizing yourself are so true. Like you can't pour from an empty cup. You love the ones, you hurt the ones you love the most. Like all those things. Like, but what are you doing if you're burning it down every single day, start to finish, spinning your wheels, not seeing growth in your business, I would venture to guess that chances are you may need or have room to bring on some help in your business or in your life to allow you to do more in your business.
For sure. And I follow you on social media, and I see that you have started this health and wellness journey. Like, you take time for yourself to, go to the spa and do things. Do you feel that the delegating has allowed you the space and the time and the opportunity to do that? Or are you just doing it and you'll just make up the time in another, in the evening, working at night?
I am one thing I'm really, really proud of, and I guess it'll be a wait and see. We should do a part 2 to this episode, because this summer, the summer of 24, will be the first summer that, I'm really taking care of myself, like, for the first time in probably a decade. I burned it down pretty badly. And you get it. You're a parent, just
Yeah.
between pregnancies and then everything that comes after a
Mhm.
pregnancy. And I had a crazy fertility journey before I got pregnant. And so I feel like for 9 years while I was building this business, I was just like sacrificing myself in the name of the
Sure.
business, in the name of having these kids. And
Yep.
I don't regret any of it, but I sort of just had a wake up call last July when I was like, I am not well. I don't feel
Mm.
good. I don't
Mhm.
feel good waking up in the morning. I'm not happy with the way I feel. And also, I want to be here for my kids for a really long time. And
Totally.
I want to feel good. And also, for this business to run at its best, you need to feel your best. And so this summer, 24, will be the first summer that we have like our full-time team set and in place. The shop is, open and running. Last year we had this huge hurdle of
Mhm.
opening our first retail space, and I'm taking care of myself through a wedding season. And I'm really curious to see, because I don't know, it's just, as women especially, we tend to put everyone else first, and I never
Yep.
felt like I was never putting myself first, but I was, if that makes sense. Like, I felt like I
Yeah.
was just like, it's selfish of me. I had this, like, it feels selfish of me to want to exercise on a Saturday morning when I've worked all week. I really should be with
Mhm.
my kids this morning. Or, like, it's selfish of me to want to go and do this thing that brings me joy for an hour in the afternoon. But it's like, what are we working so hard for if not to enjoy our lives? So
Absolutely.
the delegation in having more people help us in the team has allowed me to open up this space and really learn how to take care of myself in a lot of ways. So we'll see. We'll see how summer 24 goes. My first one.
Yeah, I love hearing this. I mean, I'm 46 years old, and if I could go back in time and tell my younger self to do what you're doing, I would do that. Instead, I didn't do that, and I tried to juggle everything, and I definitely had burnout moments from that. Sarah McDonald and I were just talking on the last podcast, and she was having panic attacks.
Yeah.
It was mentally and physically hurting her by not taking care of herself and overwhelming herself in her business. And so we talked about how you can take care of your mental health, and if you don't, you're not doing your business a favor. You're not doing your family a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor. And so I love hearing, somebody younger that has a business with 3 little kids saying what you're saying, because I think you're going to be 46 like me and look back and say, I am so thankful I did that.
Thank you. Well, I really feel that way. And I think that I look at the past 9 years, the years we did the best, I felt the best. And the years we
Mm,
were not as a company growing, or if things felt hard and sticky and overwhelming, I was struggling with stuff health wise
yeah.
and at home
Yeah.
and mental health wise. And like, we just 10 minutes before we got on this, we're reviewing this video footage we took to October. It'll be 2 years ago in October. So October of 22, we shot this video. And I'm looking at this video and I said to Matt, we're deciding what to do with it. I'm like, I can't even watch that because I feel like a
Mm,
different person because I was in such a state of survival mode. I had my third baby was born. I
yeah.
spent an entire summer in the NICU. She was on life support. She's great now. But like that was right after she came home, and the team was, there were people, understandably so, who had worked with us that summer who felt really left behind and forgotten. And I was trying to figure out how to run this business, and do I even want to keep running this business? So now I'm looking back. It's weird to have like a time capsule of when you were taking the worst care of yourself. And this is not about the size of pants I'm wearing in this video. This is not that kind of, I can't look at it. This is like,
Got it.
I look dead in my eyes. Like I look like
Yeah,
I
you
have
can see.
zero joy. And so to
Mm,
hear me talk about my business and how much I love it, and I did love it. I'm saying honest things, but now
yeah.
it's so different. And that's
Yeah.
over anyone who is in small business ownership. I mean, even the podcast we're on right now, small biz, big wins, right? That's the you're going to have really big wins, and then you're going to have really terrible, awful seasons where you want to give it
Yep.
up or you've burned it down, and just finding that normal, that routine to your days and your seasons and your years and a clip to it helps,
Mhm.
but really putting yourself first and delegating a lot of it is the only way to survive it.
Yeah, I remember when we sat down and when we were having dinner and you asked, like, how big's your team and are you still doing this? And I kept thinking, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing way too much.
You
Like,
do
I
so
can't,
much.
I cannot continue at this pace. And my sister and I actually were just texting. She works for me, and we were texting last night, and she said, Summer, you've got to let stuff go, or you're going to you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of small business owners find themselves in those situations where they're taking on too much.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is on their shoulders. And if you don't take some stuff off your shoulders, you don't have time to take care of yourself, your family, and enjoy the life that you're building, because your business isn't all your life. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to, when you pass away, no one's going to say, oh my gosh, and talk about her business.
She
Like,
worked
that's
so
not what,
hard. I think
yes,
about
that's not
this
what it's going to be
all
about.
the time. Matt and
Yeah.
we have a very unique situation where we work together and then we're married and raising our family. I say to him all the time, what are we doing this all for? Like, what is this
Hmm.
all for if not
Yeah.
to build a life so we took 2 weeks off in January. We went to Disney with our kids. We went to Florida with our kids. I did not work. I did not. And I said to him, this is
Incredible.
why we're doing this all, to
Hmm.
have these
Yeah.
moments. Like, it's like we bought plane tickets yesterday to go back to Florida to see my parents over spring break, and they're expensive. Flying at spring break is expensive. And I'm like,
So
what are
expensive
we working for? I want to go
if you
spend
can't
time
do
with
those
my
things.
parents who aren't getting any
Yep.
younger. My kids are little. They want to go see their grandparents. Like,
Yep.
I feel like, and as business owners, no one goes into business ownership who isn't already an overachieving, high achieving, love a challenge. We are
Absolutely.
predisposed for this burnout. No one can help me. No one can do it as well as I can. And then when it starts impacting your physical health, or when you blink and the
Hmm.
entire summer is gone and you haven't done anything fun with your kids, or it's like,
Yep.
what's the point? What is this all for?
What's the
So it's like, I think if you wake up in the morning and you love your job and you have a steady paycheck coming and you're paying your bills and you have a team you love, you're
Hmm.
doing pretty awesome. Like, you can delegate
Yeah.
some of it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I definitely think, obviously, having that team and you letting go of that control and delegating has allowed you to take those 2 weeks, has
Yes.
allowed you to go back again, and to take on new challenges and expansions of your business that you probably wouldn't have ever had the time to do if you didn't let stuff go off your plate and delegate it. How do you handle situations? Oh, go ahead.
Well, just real quick, one of the biggest ways I saw this happen this past summer was and maybe we'll get to this, where people want it to be you. Like they're like, no, but I want Kalin. So we now have a retail space, and people would DM us on Instagram or call the shop. I'm going to come and visit Sunday. I'm up north for the summer. I want to come visit Sunday. The shop. Is Kalin going to be working? And at the beginning of the summer, we had a team meeting about on Sundays, I would like to be off to spend the day with my kids. That is my day. Matt goes and golfs on Sunday morning. That is his mental wellness health thing. I want to have all 3 of my kids. I want to go to a coffee shop. I want to go to a splash pad. I want to just I don't want to work. I don't want to be at the shop on Sundays.
Yep.
And so
it's your day.
That's your day. And so delegating and having the boundary to know, like, no, I'm not going to come in to work Sunday because someone who's followed us for years and years and years is Sunday is their day to visit the shop. We created the shop as a way for them to feel the Sweetwater experience, whether or not that involves Kalin working the register that day. And so,
that's a big leap for a small business owner to when you were a solopreneur, it's all you, right?
Yes.
Like people used to be able to stop at your tiny farm and they would see you, buying, they could come and buy their flowers at the farm and see you. And in order for your business to grow, you can't always be behind the register. It's impossible.
You also can't.
And so going from that, it's a huge leap in the business in business to do that.
And you get it, like just the delegation, like you can't take on every new client you guys get. They cannot be your client. You would absolutely you would turn to ash. You would literally evaporate from this earth, Summer, if every single client who you guys brought in was your account. You were their point of contact. And so it's just having that delegation and then entrusting your team to say, like, you can handle this. Like the clients are going to love you. It's a huge challenge and a big to do, but I'm proud of us. We're doing it.
Yeah, no, you're definitely doing it. Do you have any situations where team members might resist taking on certain tasks, or there's kind of that mismatch between the task or something you delegate to them and their actual skills or interests? Like you said, you've made mistakes like that before, maybe given them, certain things to do and they weren't ready. They weren't ready to be a leader yet. So how do you kind of handle those situations?
I feel like there's so much in just recognizing when something isn't working, and it's not emotional. It's just like, hey, let's regroup here. This is not working. Yeah. It always is, that falls on me. Because if you're the one delegating, if you're the one assigning someone with a task, you are inherently saying, I believe you're qualified to do this task. I'm going to allow you to do this task. I'm not going to micromanage you. I'm going to be here for support, but also you're taking the results of that task. So all the time when things crash and burn here, or when something doesn't go well, I say openly all the time, that's on me. This is on me. This is not on you. But the very few times we've had to pull people off tasks, or I think it all goes back to that communication of having a really open, collaborative environment where I say all the time, and if this isn't working for you, let me know. I am here to support you, but I'm not going to every day be over your shoulder. What's the new system we're putting in place? What are the closing procedures? Do you want to hire that girl? How did the interview go? Should she be the intern for the summer? Is she the one? I say, I trust you fully. The amount of times I say this every day, I trust you fully and I'm backing you up fully. And then sometimes, very, very rarely, we need to have a talk or a meeting about like, okay, clearly something didn't go right here.
Didn't go right.
But it's always on ownership. At the end of the day, everything's on ownership.
Yeah, I think this is great advice for business owners. You have to take responsibility for the decisions that you make. You have to take ownership. You can't just be blaming your employees if you delegate something and it doesn't work out. I also like how you said you do not micromanage. I hate micromanagement. And that's a big thing here at Keep It Real Social is I do not micromanage. I don't micromanage how they do things. I hired them because they were skilled. I believed in them. I'm there to support them and help them, but I'm not going to be over their shoulder, making sure that they're doing stuff. And if they need to be micromanaged, then they're not a right fit for the team. So I like how you say you don't micromanage. You believe in the team that you hired, and you hired them for a reason.
Yeah. And also imparting that belief into your clients. Because sometimes we'll still get people who are like, well, I want to have a meeting with Kalin about my wedding. And I'm like, I hear you. I understand why. But Tracy is
Mm-hmm.
better at this job than I ever was. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Tracy is better at this job than I ever was. Like, this team can design circles around me. So a lot of times clients will say, "Are you going to design my bridal bouquet?" And I'll say, "I will, but you really actually want it to be Ellis or Christy. You don't."
Yeah. It's like
Sure.
flattering to hear that, but you know that, the team that you hired is very capable of
Better.
doing a good job.
Better.
Yeah. Better
So
job. Yeah.
I
I love
think
how you say that.
in sharing with your client base or your customers about your team is so helpful. And we've been really trying to do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
reflecting, I think the best way, or the leadership skills in learning how to delegate or collaborate, or I always think of the best leaders I know and how they trusted me to do jobs, and they let me find my own footing and find my own way. And I try every day to be more like them. And then we've all had terrible bosses. And I
Absolutely.
always think about my terrible bosses and, what worked and what didn't work, and just trying to always remember my past experience before I was the one in charge.
Yeah, who you don't wanna be. You
Mhm.
don't wanna emulate those people, yeah,
Mhm.
and I think it builds a lot of confidence in your team for them to hear you talk like that, and for them to hear you say to a client that, they are so great. It builds their confidence, and any employee, any team member wants to feel confident in their job, and they wanna feel like their boss really made a good choice.
Yeah.
So I love how you do that. That's awesome.
It's fun. It's fun, and it's a lot of work, and it's awesome. I wouldn't have it any other
I
way.
always say the hardest part of having a business is growing the team, and
Yes.
it's just something you have to learn to do. I mean, there's not a roadmap. I'm sure there's 100 books and podcasts about it, but you have to kind of forge your own way and use your own gut instinct for a lot of things that's just not teachable.
And there's something to be said about when you start hiring a team, like, it's lonely at the top. I struggled with this a
Mhm.
lot. The first few summers we had a team, and the team is close outside of work without you. Like, and we're a super
Mhm.
close team, but Matt would always
Yeah.
have to remind me, like, they don't this is there's different roles here, and it's super
Yes.
collaborative, and we're a family, and we hang out outside of work. We have our team fun days, but also, like, they want to go have their own lives, and they don't want their boss there. They don't. And so for years, I'm talking early years, I really struggled. I wanted to be everyone's best friend and everyone to hang out with me. Having kids really helped me, because now it's like I go home and I want to
Yeah.
hang out with my family. But
Yep.
it is really lonely at the top. And if it doesn't feel a little lonely, I don't think you're removed enough or being a good enough leader.
I mean, that's just comes with being a business owner.
It just comes with the territory. It's like you love them and care about them. And I care so, so, so deeply about our team's happiness. And I want them to go home at the end of the day and feel fulfilled from their work, and really love their job. And when they have that, that's good. I
Yep.
feel really good about that.
Yeah, I had a one-on-one with a team member yesterday, and that was like the exact conversation. Like, I want to make sure you're happy here. I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can so that you go home and you're like, I love what I do. And if
Yeah,
there's a time where you don't, I need to know because I have to make that better for you.
absolutely.
And what can I do to do that? So, yeah, that's why I do love being, the boss in that respect, because it gives me a lot of satisfaction to know that I'm, giving somebody a job that they love to do and that they can go home fulfilled. So, not like there's days that they're not, because that happens sometimes. Not every day is going to be perfect and rosy and, great. You got to do things you don't like to do when you're at work. But for the most part, it feels really, really good. What advice do you give for small business owners who are struggling to let it go, to delegate? Like, it seems like it comes easy to you, but obviously it doesn't come easy to a lot of people. So what advice would you give to somebody to help them let go of that control and to trust their team, and so they can manage their time better?
I would say to start small. You don't need to hire someone full time day one. You don't need to hire a manager, like, and
Sure.
many small businesses can't in the beginning. But to make a list of things you do every day, or things that you do to get ready for an event, or to onboard a client, or to whatever your small business is, if you find yourself chopping carrots, if you're chopping carrots, let's say, and you're also the one who is giving a TED talk and presenting in front of people and cooking and firing off 7 courses and talking to the group, I imagine you could find someone who would like to help you prep and chop carrots. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when you serve the dish, no one is going to comment on the size of the carrots if you have trained someone well, right? So start
Yep.
small. Where are you chopping carrots? Where are you? For me, it was processing flowers. I don't know client on the planet Earth in the over 350 weddings we've done now has ever mentioned to me how a flower was processed, which means what leaves were removed, what angle was the stem cut at, how many different buckets did it sit in, what temperature was the water, because they don't know. So where you have these little things that are eating up your time, but that are essential to your business, try bringing someone on to help you and see there.
That's great.
But when you bring them on, you cannot be a psycho. You cannot, if they chop carrots differently than you, but it is the size you told them, let them go. You don't need to be like,
don't
can I really quick
micromanage.
Get in there and just show you how I do that differently? Now, if they're slow and there's room to improve, you can at the end of the week, hey, you did a great job this week. I see some areas we could improve in your speed. Let's spend 10 minutes. I'm going to show you some of my tips and tricks. But you can't, I will fight to the end of time that if you refuse to delegate one thing in your business, you are refusing to grow your business.
Say that again. I want everyone to hear that again.
If you are refusing to delegate in your business, you are, in a lot of ways, agreeing to never grow your business. So you don't want to make any more money or have more time back. I'm making less money now, transparently, than I was 3 years ago. But I get to spend time with my kids and have a life and not work Sundays. And I don't do emails anymore at 8:00 at night. And I come home and I don't work very rarely. And that's worth it to me. But that's through delegation.
It's that trade-off.
Yes.
Yep. It is definitely a trade-off. So to end the show, I ask all of my guests one last question, and that is to share a big business win that might inspire other small business owners. And I know you've had a lot of big wins, so I'm interested to kind of hear what you might share.
Oh, man. This is proof that I should have reviewed the questions. I'm a delinquent podcast student. I just show up and start talking. I think my win, interestingly enough, we have been, thank you for that. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of wins. But to me, the real wins are the stuff that it's not splashy. So like this year, we changed our entire supply chain system. And I'm we've gotten to the size now where we can go direct and forge our own partnerships with suppliers and our own relationships. And it is affecting the bottom line so much greater than buying things through 7 different wholesale markets, if that makes sense.
No. And that's a big win. That's something that you don't publicize. No. It's not something that the average person will see, but internally for your business and for your business growth. And like you said, the bottom line, that is not even a big win. That's a huge win.
Yeah.
Whatever you can, improve your bottom line, that is a big win for a business.
Yeah. So my biggest win I've taken from this year is opening the retail shop and figuring out in ways to improve that bottom line. It really is. And it's not splashy and it's not glamorous and it's not fun and it's not Instagram worthy, but it's really, it's how that delegation continues to work for us. And, transparently, these bottom line wins would not be possible without Matt, because him coming on and being able to work directly with suppliers and because that's the stuff I didn't have time for. I didn't have time to find a better supplier for vases. I didn't have time to try and get someone to look at the numbers in a way where it's like, wow, we're spending the most money here. How can we trim this cost down? And
yeah. And if you don't delegate, there's no way that
would
you
never
would
know.
ever
This
have the
goes
time.
full
Yeah, you would never
circle
know.
to my whole theory. If you are not delegating, you're
Mhm.
refusing to ever grow your business. Because I would have just kept on autopilot, pay the bills, they
Yeah.
come in, the money is there, the money goes out, run myself into the
Yep.
ground,
You're
feel
just surviving.
survival. So those are my wins.
Surviving.
They're not glamorous,
But they're big.
but they're big.
Well, it doesn't have to be glamorous. So, yeah. Well, Kalin, thanks for saying yes to being on Small Biz Big Wins. Thanks for inspiring others to let tasks go, to make time to work on their business, and not just be in the business. You're going to stand behind the cash register every day, all day, and not let anyone else do things. Then you're not growing your business. So I love the advice you give. Your story and journey are certainly inspirational.
Thanks.
Thank you very
This
much.
was great, Summer. Thanks for having me. Congrats on your podcast and all your big wins,
Yeah.
because you're having tons as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're trying. So, but I definitely need to practice and to let more go. So, to learn more about Kalin and her business, visit the show notes. I have links to her website, her podcast, Clinks, which is I'm a regular listener of. So that is great. Love it. You and Matt crack me up every time I listen. So it's like comic relief for me.
It's just,
You guys are great.
if you own a business and you happen to be married to someone, you might enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great podcast.
Thank
So
you.
make sure that you connect with her on social media. If you love hearing from guests like Kalin, please make sure that you follow and subscribe to Small Biz Big Wins. And I would be super, super grateful if you left us a review and a comment and shared this episode with your friends on social media. The bottom line is if you share, other people and other businesses can find the podcast. So until next week, let me leave you with one last piece of advice. Even though Kalin gave us so much, pick one thing off your to-do list. I'm going to do this today and assign it to someone on your team. Even if it's a personal item, like maybe you could have your husband pick up your prescription or run to the store instead of you. Start practicing delegating. It is a skill, and that means that you need to practice. I know I need to start practicing more. So start practicing delegating because it is a skill, and the more you do it, the easier it will get. So do this each week, and before you know it, you'll be mastering delegation like Kalin, and making more time for yourself. So thanks for tuning in.